Hey guys, Ron White here, two-time USA memory champion. I am sitting in my trailer on my land. I haven't done a YouTube video in a couple months now, and I apologize, but life just got in the way. I had a lot of things that I was going on in my life, and so I just took a break from YouTube. But I'm back, baby. And in this video, I'm going to give you some tips on how to learn anything faster. I've got the chat box open here, so if you want to ask me questions, we can, but let me just dive in and talk a little bit about learning. I have held the record for the fastest to memorize a deck of cards in the United States. I have held the record for the longest number memorized in the United States in 5 minutes, a 167 digit number. I've memorized the United States Constitution. It's 5,000 words, and I've written it out from memory. A lot of you have things that you want to learn, and you want to learn them fast. We are live now, mi amo Diego. A lot of you have things that you want to learn fast, and I'm going to give you some advice in this stream right here on how to learn something fast. But I think that it is important that we always remember that the goal of learning or memorizing is understanding. It's not memory. And here's what I mean by this. If you have a history book and you want to memorize, oh, look at this. I didn't even plan that, but I love history. I didn't, you think I planned this? I didn't plan this. I have subscribed to this History's magazine here. So here's a history magazine. Let's say you're studying Egyptian history and hello, how you guys doing? There's one thing that you could do. You could just read this. You could just read this and try to memorize all the key points as you're reading it, and then close the book and talk about all the key points you memorized. That's not how I recommend you learn. If you were taking a psychology class or a history class or any type of class, the way I recommend that you learn, that really learn something, is I recommend the first thing you do is you pick up the book and you read the back cover, you read the table of contents, and you get a feel for the book. You get a feel for what's in the book. The back cover and the table of contents will tell you what the author wants you to learn. It's their outline. The chapter summaries oftentimes will tell you what the chapter was about. The glossary is something you might want to, the keywords to look for, keywords to understand. All of these things are what I call not just me, people call it pre-reading. I believe you should pre-read a book. Read the back cover, read the table of contents, read the glossary, skim through it. That doesn't involve any memory. That involves getting a feel and an understanding for the book. Do you understand what I'm saying here? I'm saying I'm a memory expert. I'm saying I'm a two-time USA memory champion. I'm saying I used to hold the record for the fastest to memorize a deck of cards in the United States. But I'm telling you, the first step in learning anything should be understanding, getting an idea of what it's about. Then get yourself a pen. And as you read, underline or highlight the main things, the things that stand out to you. But also use this pen to speed read it. Have your finger under the words and use that pen to speed read the information. Then you get to something that's valuable, boom, circle it. Keep going. Do not try to memorize as you read. So what has happened now? You have looked at the back cover, you looked at the table of contents, you have speed read the book, circling what's important. If you can't write in the book or you don't want to write in the book, have a journal, a notepad, and write down the key things there. Now, you've read the back cover, you've read the table of contents, you've read the chapter summary, you've speed read the book, and you've underlined or highlighted the key words. Now, go back and slow read it. Okay? Slow read it. Now, you've read the back cover, you've read the table of contents, you've read the chapter of summary, you've speed read it, and you've circled the main ideas. Now you've gone back and you've slow read it. Now, after you understand it, go back and memorize what you have highlighted or underlined or the key points. I like to memorize using a technique known as the mind palace or the memory palace. The mind palace of the memory palace is my favorite technique, and you hear me talking about a lot on this channel. And sometimes people say, Ron, give us something new. Well, here's a new way to look at it. And I just thought of this. I just thought of this over the last month. The metaverse. The metaverse. If you have heard of the metaverse, give me a thumbs up. Give me a like if you have heard of what the metaverse is. We got 11 likes right now. I want more likes. If you have heard of what the metaverse is, give me a like. Have you heard of Facebook, the metaverse? Okay, there's one person gave me a like. Now we're at 12 likes. The metaverse, 15 likes. You have heard about the metaverse. Everybody is excited about the metaverse. Guess what? Well, Matthew, you say you're against the metaverse, but think about this. Here's a new way to look at the metaverse. 16 likes now. We're up to 16 likes. I'd love to get this up to 20 or 30 or 40 likes. Here's something though. Let's think about this. What if we could build a metaverse in our own brain? A metaverse that we could use for learning. Ha! Build your own metaverse inside your own brain. The metaverse doesn't have to be on a computer or on the blockchain. The metaverse can be in your brain, and you can close your eyes and see this metaverse. Maybe you create your own metaverse that doesn't exist anywhere, and you see yourself walking through this metaverse, walking past objects, and you build it how you want in your own imagination, and nobody else can see it. Or maybe your metaverse is your actual house. Close your eyes and visualize your house. Ah, here's my green ribbon, and you can see it in your brain. Here's my window. Here's my shelves. Here's my trophy. Here's my plaque. But you're closing your eyes and you're seeing it in your brain. That's another metaverse. This is what the mind palace is, or the memory palace is. It is your own metaverse in your own brain. So now we take the book that we want to memorize, the key points that we have underlined and highlighted. Let's go in here. Let's look at this for 1 second. Stone, the power of Nefertiti. Nefertiti was the wife to Pharaoh Akhenaten. Akhenaten, is that right? So we go to page 32. We see some details of the life of Nefertiti, some key facts here. We see these key facts as images, pictures, and then we close our eyes and we imagine those key facts in our metaverse. Fact number 1, we imagine it right here. Fact number 2, we imagine it right here. Fact number 3, we imagine it right here. Imagine we're reading a book on Abraham Lincoln. Fact number 1, he was born in Kentucky. For those of you who are not in the United States, Kentucky is in the middle of the United States, and they have a horse race there called the Kentucky Derby. Whenever I think of Kentucky, I think of the Kentucky Derby. So inside my metaverse, on my first location, I would imagine the Kentucky Derby right here in my imagination as I close my eyes. The next fact about Abraham Lincoln is he is on the penny. The penny, the United States currency, penny. So maybe on the second location, I would imagine pennies right here. But I would imagine this in my own mental metaverse to remember the key points in the book. Guys, that's huge. You can use a metaverse, your own metaverse, to remember whatever you want. If you like that idea, give me a thumbs up. Let me go through here and look at some of the comments. Now, Nefertiti was blue eyes. That's surprising. Oh, that is surprising. So, guys, this is when you think about learning. When you think about learning, I want you to look at it differently. You may say, Ron, if I read the back of the book, I read the table of contents, and then I read the the back of the book, the table of contents, then I speed read it, then I read it again, then I memorize it. That takes a long time. That doesn't seem like it's learning fast. My answer to you on that is I think you're wrong. Because if you try to memorize something really fast and learn it really fast, it's not going to work. And then guess what do you have to do? You have to go back and learn it again. And if you do it the same way, just rushing through it, it's not going to work. Then you have to do it again. And then you go take the test and you don't do well in the test. Then you have to take the class of the test again. Think how much time that is. That's a lot of time because you're trying to rush. But if you go slow, it's actually fast because you're getting it the first time. Even though it's taking a little longer, you're getting it right the first time. So fast is slow. Fast is slow. Smooth is fast. Fast is slow because you got to go back and do it again. Smooth, even though it takes longer, is fast because you don't have to go back and do it again. And you actually know it. That's the goal of memory. It's the Quran, the most memorized book. It's over 70,000 verses. It confuses me. Well, it's probably one of the most, and I don't know if it's the most memorized book, but it's probably up there, top 5 or top 10. It's it's because it has a religious motivation. A lot of memory is motivation. If you are motivated to memorize something, you're going to do it. And religion is something that can motivate people. Um, uh, so you need motivation to memorize, and religion motivates a lot of people. So that's probably why it's one of the most memorized books because the motivation is so strong. Um, but it's a significant task. By the way, I have a memory course called Black Belt Memory. I have a memory course called Black Belt Memory. Click the link down below in the description and get my free PDF. It's a free guide on how to memorize more. And if you like the free guide, then get the actual memory course, Black Belt Memory. It's a great, great memory course. But click the link down below in the description. Thanks for doing this. I want to memorize mudras. Have you ever used them in pose? Looks like pose or hand fingers or I've never. Let me look into that. I don't have anything off the top of my head on that. I'll investigate. I'll investigate that more. How much should we do Loci method for 100 pages? Here's a common question I get. The question right here was the Loci method. The Loci method is the same as the memory palace. It's also called the memory palace, the mind palace, the journey method, or the metaverse thing that I just used right here. How many locations do you need for a 100-page book? I don't know. What a terrible answer. What a terrible answer. I don't know. Here's why I don't know. Let's say it's a 100-page book, but you know the subject really, 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 really well already. Well, then you don't need to memorize as much of it. So you might only need 100 or 200 locations. But let's say it's a new subject that you don't know anything about, and it's a 100-page book. Well, you might need 1,000 locations. You can't really judge simply based on the size of the book by how many locations you're going to need. Now, let's go back here. There are some people that are new to this topic, and they may not understand what we're saying. The question is how many loci should I need for a 100-page book? Well, what's a loci for those of you who don't know? A loci is a location. So whenever I said this is my number 1 location, this is my number 2 location, this is my number 3 location, each one of these would be a loci. If you created your own metaverse in your memory, each one of those locations would be a loci. Now think about it. Think about it. Location, loci. Same root word. The loci, location. So a location in memory, the loci is a location in your memory. How many do you need? I don't know. I don't know. It's a terrible, but here's a way you can figure it out. Before you memorize anything, you should get the book or whatever it is that you want to memorize, and you should skim through it. and you should get it. You should think, in this chapter, there's a list of 25 things. I want to memorize all 25 of those. In this chapter, there's a list of 8 things. I want to memorize all of those. In this chapter, there's a list of 15 things. I want to memorize all of those. So you need to go through the book and see how much information you want to memorize out of that book. The first step should always be, though, to get an idea of how many loci you're going to need, because I think you should create the loci before you tackle the memory project. So if you pick up a book and you realize, by the way, can we get some likes? Can we get some likes on this video? People are going to be watching this video later on. And if the more likes we can get, the more valuable that they will see it. And there we go. We got 3 likes right there. I really appreciate that. So, the first thing you should do is always, thank you guys. We are up to 33 likes now. I really appreciate that. You guys are awesome. Um, uh, Go through the book, see how much you want to memorize, and let's say you think I'm going to need 100 loci. If you don't already have 100 loci, 37 likes, 39 likes, thank you. If you don't already have 100 loci, build those before you start the memory project. I always have my loci built before I start a memory project. Once I start memorizing, I just want to memorize. I don't want to be building loci as I go. By the way, down in the link in the description, I have a black belt memory course. I have a link for that black belt memory course. Click the link in the description of this video. You'll get a free gift, but you'll also get to learn about my black belt memory course. Ron, I need to memorize call scripts to be quick on objections and other heavy topics. This is from Drake. Uh, how do I remember scripts very quickly and objections? So this is important. I used to have a telemarketer, and he worked for me, and he would call businesses to try to sell me to go out there and give a memory seminar. Well, what I taught him to do, we had 4 rooms in our office. We had 4 rooms. In each one of those rooms, we numbered 5 pieces of furniture. And then we took the script. We took what we wanted him to say, and we made the main ideas. So this is what he would do. He would call up people and he would say, "Hi, my name is Brian. I'm with Ron White Training." So he would see me, Ron White, driving a train, and he imagined that on the first location. Ron White is a memory expert. So see, he saw a human brain right here for memory expert. He goes out to businesses and he gives memory seminars. So he imagined me giving a memory seminar right there. It's only an hour long, 1 hour. So then he imagined the number 1 right here. And so when he would give his speech, his script, he would just jump around from location to location. That's how he memorized the script. And he'd be on the phone. And why is that important? Because a lot of times when you're making phone calls, if you sound like you're reading the script, people aren't going to listen to you. But if you sound like you're just talking, which it sounds like you're just talking when you're bouncing around from loci to loci. So that's how he memorized his script. Then he had another room with objections where people would say, we don't have the money. So on location number 1, he would see the money for when they say we don't have the money. On location number 2 would be his reply. His reply would be, well, this course is going to pay for itself. It's not going to cost you any money. When you make more sales, it'll pay for itself. So we had a cash register right here to say it's going to pay for itself. So my answer to you is put the objection on one location in your brain. Then the next location is your response. Objection, response. Objection, response. Objection, response. Give me a like if you like these. How can you know how many loci you need from information you get from the book? I think we covered that a little bit. How do you memorize books word for word? David Kriz wants to know, how do you memorize a book word for word? I need to get a little bit of a drink here. I apologize. So word for word is the exact same way as thought by thought, but it just takes a lot more work. First of all, I'm going to tell you this. I don't think you should memorize a book word for word unless It is poetry or Shakespeare, a play, a movie script, a religious book like the Bible or the Quran, then those are intended to be memorized word for word. But if you were looking at a history book or a science book or a math book or something like that, you think if you memorize it word for word, it'll be more helpful. It won't. So keep that in mind. You don't need to memorize books word for word to get the value, unless it's one of the categories that I talked about. So, how do you memorize something word for word? Let's say it's a poem. Look at each sentence, and in each sentence, create a picture that represents that sentence. Remember, thumbs up as always, thumbs up as always. So, create a picture that represents that sentence. Here is an example. Here's a poem. The poem goes like this: when you get what you want in your struggle for self, and the world makes you king for a day, and I'm gonna close my eyes so you don't think I'm reading it. When you get what you want in your struggle for self, and the world makes you king for a day, just go to a mirror and look at yourself and see what that man has to say. For it is not your father, your mother, or your wife whose judgment upon you must pass, but the fellow's verdict who counts most in your life is the man looking back from the glass. Some people may say you're a square shooting chum and call you a wonderful guy, but the man in the glass says you're only a bum if you can't look him straight in the eye. He's the one to please, never mind the rest, for he's with you clear up till the end. And you'll pass your most dangerous and difficult test if the man in the glass is your friend. You may fool the whole world down the pathway of years and get pats on your back as you pass, but your final reward will be heartache and tears if you've cheated the man in the glass. Ah, that was a 20-line poem, and I just recited it from memory like that. I didn't have to think about it. I haven't said that poem in maybe a year, and I just did it from memory. How? Line number one: when you get what you want in your struggle for self. I imagine there was two Rons, there was two of me, and we're struggling with ourselves. Then I imagine it on my first piece of furniture, my first location. Now, here's the deal. When I look at this, I see there's two of me and we're fighting with each other to remember the line: when you get what you want in your struggle for self. I see there's two of me fighting with each other, but when I say the phrase, I say it this way: when you get what you want in your struggle for self. The next line is, and the world makes you king for a day. I see the world with a king's crown on it. But I don't say the world with a king's crown on it. I say the line of the poem, and the world makes you king for a day. Then I go back and I say the first line: when you get what you want in your struggle for self, and the world makes you king for a day. So here's what I'm saying: you break down each line, you create a picture for that, and you place that picture on your location. But when you look at the location, you don't say the picture, you say what it represents. And then you just got to keep going back and reviewing. You review this line, and then you add the next line. Then you go back and you say this line, and this line, and then you add the next line here. Then you say this line, and this line, and this line, then you add the next line. So you always add one more line and then go back and say it all together. And that's how you memorize. We have 52 people watching and 63 likes. That's awesome. That's awesome, guys. Also, don't forget to click the link down below and get my memory course, Black Belt Memory. When you, Alessandro Alex asked, when your last full recall of the Constitution, how much is now in long-term memory? So the last time that I memorized, that's a good question. Here's Alessandro's question. When you memorize something, how long does it stay in your long-term memory? If you don't review the Constitution, I have only written out or said maybe 10 or 15 times. So it's not as strong into my memory as that poem. That poem I just recited to you, I memorized it 30 years ago, and I've probably said it 100 times or 200 times. So it's strong in my memory. A key component of memory is review. A key ingredient to memory is review. So if you memorize a poem or the Quran or the Bible or the Constitution, but you don't review it for 2 or 3 months, me personally, this happened. I memorized the United States Constitution, then I didn't look at it for a year. I'm not kidding you. 1 year. When I went back, I was not able to say it. However, when I rememorized it, I found that I could remember about 50%. Let me see how much I can say right now. We'll just test this. I haven't looked at it in about 4 months. Let's see how much. I'm not going to say the whole thing, but let's just kind of get a feel for this. I'm going to skip the preamble and I'm going to go right to Article 1, Section 1. Article 1, Section 1. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress of the United States, which shall consist of a Senate and House of Representatives. The House of Representatives shall be composed of members chosen every second year by the people of the several states. And the legislatures in each state shall have the qualifications requisite for the electors of the most numerous branch of the state legislature. No person shall be a representative who shall not have attained to the age of 25 years and been 6 years a citizen of the United States, and who shall not, when elected, be an inhabitant of that state for which he shall be chosen. Okay, so this kind of gives me an idea. I think I remember that first part pretty well because oftentimes when I review the Constitution, where do you start? You start at the beginning. So I think I've reviewed that the most. I think if I had kept going and saying it, I think I'd probably only get 30 or 40%. I think as the Constitution went on, I would remember less and less. So here's the important thing. Review is extremely important to memory. If you don't review, it's gonna fade away. Do you use David Kritz asked, do you use new memory palaces for new things to memorize, or do you use memory palaces? So here's the question David's asking. Every time I memorize something, do I use a new memory palace or do I use an old memory palace? The answer to that is it depends. What a terrible answer, but let me explain. So, if I wanted to memorize the presidents of the United States today, I would use my memory palace and I'd memorize it. If I wanted to memorize the periodic table of elements tomorrow, I could use that same memory palace and there would be no confusion. Why? Because hydrogen, helium, lithium, beryllium is different than George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, James Madison. There's no going to be no confusion there. However, if I wanted to memorize the presidents of the United States today and vice presidents tomorrow, well, those things are so similar. I'm going to confuse those two lists. I need to use a different mind palace or a different memory palace, which is another building or location. So let me give you an example of this. When I would compete in the USA Memory Championship, they give you 2 chances to memorize a deck of cards and 2 chances to memorize a string of numbers. So 4 chances, two on cards and two on numbers. I had 4 different memory palaces. Cards, numbers. Why? Because those are all so similar. Because my images for cards are the same as my images for numbers. They really are. So if I use the same memory palace 4 times, oh my gosh, I would have been so confused. I used 4 different memory palaces for the 4 different events in that day. I once met a girl at the USA Memory Championship, and she was so frustrated. You could see the stress on her face. And I said, tell me why you're so stressed. She said, I'm confusing this event with this event and this. And I'm like, wait a minute. Are you telling me you used the same memory palace for all those events? And she was like, had tears in her eyes. And she's like, yes. I'm like, oh, you're such a nice girl, but that's no wonder. No wonder you need 4 different memory palaces because they're so similar. However, if the topics are different, you can reuse the same memory palace over and 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 over. Okay? Uh, how Sarah Merzuki, how often to review before moving on to the next one, especially when you have to have many technical details? Well, I hate answering all the questions this way, but it depends um, on how well you know the material. So let me tell you what I do, just as a rule of thumb. I always memorize something, memorize the next thing, but before I go to the next thing, I always review the one before. I'm always reviewing the one before. Always review at least the one before, maybe 2 or 3 before you add to the next one. I think that's very important. The only scenario you're not gonna wanna do this is if you're competing in a memory tournament and you wanna try to memorize a deck of cards really, really fast, then just go through it and don't stop and review it. But in learning, I always go back and I review the one before. Let me give you another tip on review here. By the way, don't forget, we like the thumbs up. This is going to tell people that this video is valuable. And don't forget to click the link down below in the description. Get my free memory PDF. Um, Here is another really, 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 really important thing on review. Let's say, thank you guys. We just got, I said that, and we just went from 72 likes to 76 likes. So thank you. Even if you're watching this on the replay, please do that. So here's the deal. Let's say I want to memorize this page. Let me go to another spot. Let's say I want to memorize this page right here. And I'm looking at this page and I want to memorize this page. You should review this before you go to the next page, right? However, if in your review you just read the page again, that's not a good review. Because the problem with reading something again as a review is you're tricking yourself that you think you know it. You're like, oh, yeah, I know that. I know that. I know that. I know that. Well, maybe you do, maybe you don't. Maybe you're just seeing it again and you're recognizing it. There is a difference between recognizing and remembering. So, this is how I suggest you review. I suggest you have your book in your hand, but I suggest you look away and you don't look at the data and you see how much you can recall without looking at it. Why? That does two things. The first thing that it does is you are not able to trick yourself. You're not able to trick yourself. If you're looking away, you can't trick yourself that you actually know it. Either you know it or you don't. But it does something else. The second thing it does is so important. In the learning process, when you are reviewing it, if you actually have to think about it, if you have to look away and actually think about it as you're trying to remember it, that's going to make it stronger in your memory. So when you review, look away, see how much you can say. You won't be tricking yourself and it'll make it stronger in your memory. How often do you review? I say if you memorized 50 data points today and you're going to start memorizing again tomorrow, review what you learned the day before you start today. Start every day off with reviewing what you learned the day before you add something new for the day. And then as you go throughout the day, review. Review is crucial to memory. Maybe at the end of the day, get yourself a journal and give yourself a test. I do jujitsu. And one thing I tell myself when I go into a jujitsu class is there's going to be a test at the end of this class. Well, there's really not a test. But you know what I do? I get in my car and I close my eyes and I give myself a test. What did you learn? You do the same thing. Next time you go to a class, when you walk in, tell yourself there's going to be a test at the end of this class. At the end of the class, go find yourself a seat somewhere, get out a book, and write down everything you learned. Why? It's going to do two things. The first thing that it's going to do is it's going to force you to pay attention in class because you know there's going to be a test. But the second thing that it's going to do is it's going to give you a list of notes that you created right after the class that you could always use to review. And really, there's a third thing that it's going to do. It's going to force your brain to think about what you learned. That's going to reinforce it in your memory. Now, still take notes during class. This is just a second set of notes, a different type of notes that you take for what you learned. So, just an idea there. Sounds like Mr. Dreamer 60 Your piano teacher said the same thing. Sound like you had a good teacher. Uh, Adam Spencer says, "What is the one thing that make the difference in your memory power?" What's the one thing that not giving up? Not giving up. Not giving up is what has made my memory special. And if you think that's arrogant for me to say my memory is special, understand what I mean. My memory is not any more special than yours, but maybe some of my accomplishments in memory are special. But it's only because I didn't give up. I actually took the time to turn every number from 1 to 1,000 into a picture. That's a lot of time. I actually took time to create images for common names. Lisa is the Mona Lisa, Steve is a stove, Brian is a brain. I actually took the time to get out a notebook and map out over 50 mind palaces or memory palaces. Because I invested the time in my memory, that has made all the difference. My memory is no more special than anybody else's. I just invested the time. I just invested the time. If you're going to invest time, give me a thumbs up. We got 80 likes right now. Are you willing to invest the time? Guys, I'm going to keep doing these YouTube videos like this. And if you want me to, give me a like so I know that if I should. Don't forget to click the link down below, too, to get my memory course. How to coming up with pictures for things we want to memorize. KK91 says, how do you come up with pictures? This is a really important question. How do you come up with a picture? I think there are two main ways to create pictures. The first way is, let's say that you have the word love. Well, it's difficult to see love, right? How do you see love? I don't know. But I can think of this one person that I love so much. So I think of that person to represent love for me. So the first way to create a picture is to think of something that reminds you or a substitute. That's rule number one. The second way you can come up with a picture is look at the actual word and break it down by syllable. For example, the word neophyte. Neophyte. Break that down by syllable. Knee fight. You see somebody on their knees fighting. It means beginner. So the two ways that I think you can create images is, number one, a substitution. The word love, you see a person you love. The word freedom, you see an eagle because that represents freedom to you. Substitution method. The other method is breaking it down by syllable. Neophyte. Break it down by syllable. Neophyte, knee fight. Those are, I think, two of the primary ways to create images. And just be creative. Just be creative. Go with the first thought that you have. Maybe watch cartoons or listen to or talk to a little kid. Talk to a little kid, like a 8-year-old, and say, hey, here's this word. What does it sound like to you? And they'll come up with something and you'll be like, that's so creative. Why is it so creative? Because they're not nervous that you're going to think it's silly. They're just going to say it. And that's, as adults, what we have to be. We have to be like, I'm not going to be worried people are going to think this is silly. Okay, so Alessandro, I'm Italian. I give you an important hint. Loci is not pronounced like you. It's from Latin. It's like cheap. Loci. I agree. I agree. I'm mispronouncing it, but I mispronounce English words. I'm a Texan. I say, but thank you for that. I will. Alessandro. I will make sure I make that correction more. But remember, I'm a Texan. People who speak English think I say English words bad. But thank you for that correction there. I appreciate it. Pyro says, is the forgetting curve accurate? Yes, the forgetting curve is accurate. There was a guy named Ebbinghaus, and Ebbinghaus came up with a theory of the forgetting curve. And the forgetting curve is this. Like, let's say you just now learned something. Well, how much you remember of it is right here. But as time increases, the amount that you remember decreases. So over time, you will remember less and less. there's a curve. It goes with forgetting like this. And Ebbinghaus did some research. He took non-syllables that didn't mean anything, and he tried to memorize them. And he developed this idea that over time you forget something. So this is why we need to review. Why review is so important to the learning process. Uh, Review and a memory system. My favorite memory system is the Mind Palace, the Memory Palace. Um, Adney says I'm not Adley Jesse, not totally incorrect. So thank you. You can't picture love without a complex story. I don't know. Matthew, here's the thing. If you told yourself that every time I see that person, it's gonna remind me of love, that's all you need. You just need to tell yourself that person represents the word love for me. The word freedom is represented by eagle. If you decide that, it's done. All you have to do is decide this person or this picture represents this word. Once you decide that, that's done. Uh, what you thinking about fast reading? Well, I think speed reading, Samet, is valuable. And it's speed reading is where you use your finger or a pen to move your eye across the page. I think it's valuable to get a feel for the book and to get an idea for what the book is about. I don't know if it's the best for learning, but I think you could use it if you just want to get a real quick idea of the main points of a book. I think there's value in that. Um, Okay, we're just going to do one last question here, but I'm going to do a lot of these lives and I'm going to do a lot of these videos. So keep subscribed to my channel, keep involved in my channel, and we're going to do lots more of these. I didn't even have this planned. I just sat down at my computer and I'm like, we're going to do a live video. So we're going to do a lot more of these. If you like that, give me a thumbs up. Daniel, we love you in Brazil. Texas accent is the only accent. Long time no see, the sun. Uh, let's see. It's nearly impossible, more than 800 word. Thank you for your comment. Guys, I'm just going to say it by this. We got so many questions here. I'm just going to say this. Learn a memory system. Um, Practice the memory system. I like the Memory Palace of the Mind Palace. Um, Leave your comments, below, and we'll try to I'll try to answer them, maybe create a video on them. We'll do more of these. I appreciate all your feedback. We've gone 43 minutes here. Thank you for all the likes. Click the link down below. If you click the link and you enter your email address at that link, you'll get subscribed to my email list. And I send out emails not every single day, but a couple times a week with memory tips. So you might want to subscribe to that. But thank you so much for everybody. We're at 96 likes. I'd love to get it. What if we could get it 100 likes before I end this? I end this live stream. Let's go to 100 likes before okay, we're at 97. We're at 97 likes. If you enjoyed this video, 98. Don't forget to click the link down below and get my memory course. 2 more likes. 99. One more like. One more like. We'll do it as a team. We'll do it together. Who's gonna? Oh, 102. Woo! Thanks, guys. I'm going to be doing more of these. I appreciate it. I love you guys. You guys are my friends. You're my family. You're my team. We're going to get through learning together. See you later.